those guys who still build that type of muscle, and girls, still have to work incredibly hard at the gym. Whereas taking Ozempic or Mounjaro means that you take away the difficulty. You take away that bit that's really, really hard. Before we start, do me a really, really big favor. Please hit the subscribe button to support my channel, particularly if you're a returning viewer. If you're a returning viewer, it means you like my stuff and you're not hitting subscribe. Why aren't you hitting subscribe? Hit subscribe. It helps me out and it helps you see my content first. Now let's get on with the video. Should Ozempic be banned from bodybuilding competitions is the question I'm asking today. Stick around to see what I think. So I've been talking about Ozempic and all the other fat loss jabs for a little while. I think everyone who's been watching me knows my stance with them. I think they should be used for a very small amount of the population. The rest of us need to take control of our health, need to take control of our nutrition. I thought I'd go a little bit more nuanced here because I was thinking about this the other day. One of the biggest difficulties when it comes to the bodybuilding world, and I'm talking like on-stage bodybuilders who have built their muscles enough, then spend a large period of time after building their muscles restricting their calories so that they can get really, really lean, shredded, whatever you want to call it, so that then you can then see the musculature that they've gained over the months or years or however long they've been doing their sport. Now, I've never got to that depth of conditioning. I've never got that lean. I've got pretty lean. And what happens at that stage is the only thing you think about is food. You're so hungry, all you're thinking about is food. And it gets to the point where most people like me, who probably got further than most, but not past the point where I'm stage ready, is I go, do you know what? It's not worth it. Sorry, I got this lean. I look great. I'm going to go back to somewhat of a normal life. And the reason I do that is because I don't think it's worth it because it's far too hard. And I've got huge respect for the people, whether it be tested bodybuilding, non-tested bodybuilding. I'm talking about performance-enhancing drugs here. I've got a huge respect for people that get there because it is an absolute grind at the end. It is so hard, I can't even begin to express. There were times I was like going into the cupboard, right? And I'd eaten my dinner and I'd pick up the cereal packet and I'd just start smelling the cereal. And the smell of cereal, just normal cereal, like brand cereal, just smelled so nice to me because I was so hungry. I'd go to bed early because I was hungry, but I couldn't sleep because all I was thinking about was food. And I never got to those depths that the bodybuilders who get up on stage get. So now there's not any bodybuilders that have really come out and said that they have taken it yet, but I think it's pretty clear that a lot of them are taking it. And I read an article the other day that kind of confirms it. Like, here's the problem I have. If you take it and you're a bodybuilder and you're trying to get up on stage, you think about all the people, right, that spent a lot of time working really, really hard to get stage ready. And then some guy who would no way have had the discipline to get there had it not been for these drugs. They pay for Ozempic or Mounjaro, they get it prescribed and pay for it or whatever. They take it, all their hunger disappears. So they can spend 2, 3, 6 months getting as shredded as they want after they've built their muscle. And they get to stand there on stage with people who grinded and fought against the urges, like I talked about, to go down and just put your face in a packet of cereal or put your hand in a biscuit tin and shove them all in your mouth, because that's what you start thinking of because you're so hungry. That takes that away. And that for me is the reason why it's far bigger a cheat than performance-enhancing drugs. Because just hear me out on this one. I know what a lot of you think. I already had a couple of comments on my shorts about this. Is they're just the same, or performance-enhancing drugs are far worse. Now, if you think about it from a bodybuilding perspective, right? Even in tested bodybuilding events, there's performance-enhancing drugs. In the non-tested ones, no one says there is, but no one talks about it. There definitely is, by the way. Now, what happens is those guys who still build that type of muscle, and girls, still have to work incredibly hard at the gym. The performance-enhancing drugs help them to recover so that they can build more muscle. But in order to build the muscle, they have to work really hard. Now, with the dieting, if you take away the thing that's difficult, so the thing that's difficult with building the muscle is showing up, right? Showing up and working really hard. The performance-enhancing drugs help you massively, but they help you. You still have to do the work. Whereas taking Ozempic or Mounjaro means that you take away the difficulty. You take away that bit that's really, really hard. It's really hard. The bit where you're so hungry you could eat the wall, it takes that away. So people who wouldn't have had the discipline, myself included, get to go up on stage with all these guys and girls that did have the discipline. And I have a real problem with it. I think it's unfair. Now, someone might argue that there's been fat burners forever, but fat burners don't suppress your hunger. Okay, they ramp up your metabolism so you burn body fat. But Mounjaro takes away hunger so you don't eat. So those, like I said, those points that you're really, really hungry and you're desperate to eat, you don't get. So it's easier. It confirms it here. Mike Asrital, who I like, by the way, but he used semaglutide, which is the active ingredients in Ozempic. So it's essentially the thing that suppresses your hunger. And when he took it, he says here, all the hunger went away. It was miraculous. I didn't take it long, only a couple of weeks post-show. Then for my next series of contest preparations months later, I began to take it and I saw an incredible effect that it has. Goodbye hunger. He goes on to say a little later that the value of the drug, like Ozempic for bodybuilding, is not about losing more weight. Top male performers reach about 5% of body fat already. He says, but reducing the profound symptoms of extreme hunger. Sleep is probably the most powerful effective of how much body fat and muscle mass you have. It's a huge revolution for folks like myself that use it for physical enhancement purposes. Now, where I do agree with him here, because actually the people who I know can get there, that have done it, that get to 5% already, well, fair enough. You look at them and you go, I kind of get his point, because they're disciplined enough to get there anyway. And it takes away that like I talked about, that huge desire to want to eat all the time. The problem, though, is that it's not going to be those guys that are typically taking it. I mean, they're going to be guys who don't have the discipline that those guys have, that can get on stage with people like that. And it's simply not fair, in my opinion. There's much more on this article, and I'll link it at the bottom because there's a few more bodybuilders. I don't want to go into it too much because it goes into some stuff that I've already said. But effectively, it's kind of highlighting my point of well, the hard part about the dieting for bodybuilders is that extreme hunger right at the end. And if that takes that away, then that's not hard anymore. That bit isn't hard anymore, so anyone can do it, right? Anyone who's worked hard in the gym for long enough can do it. It does go on briefly to talk about Ozempic ass, which I'd never fucking heard of until now. And it's effectively that people use Ozempic and lose weight so fast that they effectively lose a load of their muscle, meaning that the ass that they have just fucking disappears, which I think is quite funny. We have talked about the effects of Ozempic on muscle. It's not just Ozempic. If you crash diet and lose weight at a fast rate, regardless of what method you use to lose it fast, you're going to lose muscle anyway. Ozempic just means that it's very, very likely that you are, because especially if you don't weight train. It goes on to say in this article as well that people can retain muscle while on Ozempic, but they have to be in the gym and they have to eat enough protein. So in conclusion to this, do I think bodybuilders should be taking Ozempic? Even with Mike Asrital's description of how much better he felt at that end stage when he did take it, I'm still going to say, on balance, no, because the guys who have been there and done it, even though they benefit greatly from the removal of symptoms, which will mean that they feel better, sleep better, etc., it still brings in this category of people who would otherwise never been on stage. They can join these group of, I think, quite special people who have the will to get there and get all the way, because I certainly didn't. It was really, really tough when I tried. But anyway, what do I know? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.